Guys, welcome to This Is Who We Are podcast. This is episode number 4 with my good friend Seth Cook, urethane technician. Seth works in the oil field industry. They make urethane rollers for pipeline, which is all of the pipe that goes into the ground every day to suck out that juicy black stuff so we can refine it, put gas in our cars, drive around, and live in this world. I hope you enjoy this one. Had a lot of fun hanging out with Seth out in the semi wilderness. As always, make sure you like, please subscribe, and please leave me some comments. Let me know how I'm doing. And thank you for your patience. Man, trying to learn this stuff as I go is has been very difficult, but also very rewarding. So I appreciate your views and I appreciate your time and your giving to me. So thank you and enjoy. All right, let's do this.
This motherfucker's gonna have to do a lot of editing. 50 bucks says he just drives off and leaves me here. I'm gonna be looking pretty stupid just sitting on the. Oh my god, how can you drink that shit?
I know. I want to thank our sponsors today, Bang Energy Drink. Today's flavor is candy apple crisp. They said if you want the apple up in your mouth, drink Bang.
Say hello, kidney stone.
Did I tell you I had a kidney stone?
Gee, I wonder why, Bang.
Man.
How'd it feel when you peed? Like, did it hurt?
I couldn't pass it, and we went to the hospital. So it was the day before, like the kids came back, but it was 2 years. So B took me to the hospital, and on the way there, I was like, "Please, just run." That's awesome, dude. That's like
Really
embarrassing as hell in front of, the cute younger teachers. Yeah. So I'm trying to walk it off. She leaves, and then finally, I was like, "Dude, this is not gas. Like I've had painful gas."
What did it feel like?
It just felt like I was gonna die.
Like actual physical pain?
Yeah, no, like severe physical pain, like hunched over. And I was like, take me to the hospital, man. So B took me to the hospital. And on the way there, I was like, please just run those lights. Just and so I'm trying not to be, a baby about it. And the nurses were just clowning me. But the one nurse was like, I pretty much guarantee it's kidney stone. Like, it's kidney stone.
Yeah.
And that was it a cop?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm not doing anything this time.
And that I don't know, it'd just be embarrassing,
Yeah.
So they take me and they do the MRI or whatever, and they're like, yeah, it's a kidney stone. It's in your ureter, like between your kidneys and your TT. I'm on the ground, man, just hunched over, and they're like, do you want something for the pain? I was like, no, I'm good.
I'm a man.
And they were like, we'll give you morphine. And I was like, dude, there's people here that, got shot and stuff. Like, I'm not going to take morphine over a kidney stone.
Yeah.
And so, like, the third time, the girl was like, hey, like, quit trying to be, a hero. Quit trying to be cool. Like, just take the morphine. I was like, I'll take the morphine. And so they have to unlock it. Like, I guess Nicole probably knows all this.
Oh, yeah.
But they have to, like, sign it out for how long it's been out and everything. So it's kind of a big deal. Like this at all. And he kind of looked at me like weird. And then 2 seconds later, I was like, oh. I mean, just, you see, like, the what's that, train spotting?
Yeah.
Literally, like, just melt into the carpet. And I was like, this is amazing. But it lasted for maybe 30 minutes. So they sent me home, and then I came back because I couldn't pass it. And the doctor, it was like, the hurricane was coming. And he was like, look, I can make an incision right now, and we'll relieve that kidney, because it's backed up. And I was like, oh, does it fix the kidney stone? He was like, no. And he was like, but you better decide now, because that hurricane's coming, and you might be, we might be landlocked or whatever. And I was like, nah, I'll go home. So I got online and looked up everything, and it was like lemon juice and olive oil, and I was drinking shots of that. I drank like a pomegranate juice thing like this big, and like literally 2 gallons of water.
Jesus. If you wouldn't have been able to pass that thing, your fucking bladder probably would explode.
Dude, I was sleeping on my knees with my head on the toilet because that was the only position I could get comfortable. So I had to stay in there and get like 30 minutes of sleep and then wake up. And man, at 5 a.m, I was like, oh, I can pee. And so I got up, and they give you a little funnel with a screen in the bottom,
so you can trap the.
Yeah, and I peed, and sand came out.
Oh,
dude, it didn't hurt. Like it had broken down, you know.
Well, I was about to say Travis passed one of them.
Travis,
bitches.
He passed out. He told me.
Yeah, he fucking passed out because it was so bad.
So then I talked to my dad, and he was like, "Oh yeah, when I was like 25, I had one, and I drove myself to the hospital, and I passed out and like wrecked into the front of the emergency room, or like not into the building, but like hit the curb. Yeah, because it hurt that bad." And I was like,
"Okay, so they're just like, oh yeah, I have kidney stones."
But yeah, from Travis, I had heard that it was like the worst thing. And then my dad just recently had, he thinks he had another one. So, that sounds like a stone.
Oh, god dang.
Oh, God, dude, that sounds like a mudslide.
That's a big deeds for you.
Oh, jeez, man. You might want to...
take a shower?
Yeah.
All right. Get some more kidney stones. Go for it. Yeah, it's like, hey, Travis, what all do you drink? Oh, energy drinks and Coke.
So I've been... I'm cheating today. I'm going to eat that moon pie. I cheated this weekend. But I don't drink Cokes anymore.
I have one a day. Believe it or not, this is actually... You get me that as a second. We had McDonald's, and I was like, great. I've been drinking water at work.
Same. But, dude, I was up to 214 at the end of the school year.
Damn, fatty.
Yeah, so I lost 24 pounds. I'm back down to 190. If I did that math correct, I don't know.
Math has never been one of my good subjects. Or reading, or writing, science.
All right, RTD, what's your name?
Seth Cook.
Seth Cookie, and what do you do, Seth Cookie?
Work at Sinjo Polyurethane.
So what do you do at Sinjo Polyurethane?
Make rollers and cups and seals for oil companies. Yeah,
so 99.9% of the world's not going to know what that is. So describe like what a roller does.
Well, basically you roll shit on it. Okay, like say the pipe comes out, need something to roll on, they do like a little assembly line. Yeah. Those are usually what the rollers are used for, is the pipe and stuff like that in the oil field. Cups and seals, like hydro test seals, basically made out of urethane. Slap it on the end there. They test the pipe to see if there's any cracks, shit like that. And yeah, so whenever they thread pipe for oil field to go in the ground, rollers catch the pipe. Rollers catch the pipe. And then, of course, the thread protectors protect the threads when they're doing the blasting. They sandblast the inside of them. Have another ones for coating when they coat the inside of them. I always thought it was kind of odd because nobody would know what that is. But then you think about like directly how that's tied to literally pulling oil and gas out of the ground so we can drive around. Mm-hmm. It's weird that it makes you wonder how many jobs are out there that directly influence what you're doing and you have no idea about it. Oh, yeah. I was about to say, there's tons of stuff where somebody will come in and they'll be like, so what is this used for? Like, I have no idea. I just pour it. Yeah. It's like, I mean, all I can tell people most of the time is it's related to the oil field. Yeah. It's like, you can't go vroom, vroom without it. Yeah. There are so many things that y'all would pour that I would just try to like imagine what they were. Oh, yeah. And I was never right. Yeah, my imagination is completely different about what it's actually used for until like my boss will put some shit together and be like, okay, so you pour this, I pour this. It all goes together at the end. They run the pipe and wires. I mean, there's all kinds of shit. And then like I'll have people that will come and work for us that have actually worked in the oil field. And they're like, holy crap, I always wondered where these came from. Yeah, that's cool. And it's like, okay, so he knows what's going on with this. I've met people that do the pigs for cleaning out lines. Mm-hmm. And then they would say, oh, yeah, we use the whatever those seals are to drag behind it to clear any sludge out. And I was like, oh, that's... Like, yeah, I actually had to look up a video. And like when I typed in, pigs and stuff like that, I'm getting farm animals and shit like that. But then I actually caught a video of, them shooting one of the pigs out of the pipe or whatever. And I was like, okay. On
Pornhub or?
Yeah, I was about to say. I mean, That's pretty much where I get all my
on food. Is it? Do you watch that on Farm Hub or?
I was about to say, yeah, actually, I got that one. That's saved in my favorites.
All right. So, how long have you been doing this?
I guess I'm at 16, 17 years now.
That's great because I remember, when you started, and then you being at like the 4-year mark, and thinking like, oh, he'll never catch up with me. And, there you go. So 16 years.
16 years. I think I got a small idea of what I'm doing.
Yeah. I could never do the urethane stuff. If Kenneth said I had to help with urethane, that was going to be the worst day of the month.
I was about to say, it's like I tell everybody, the hardest part is just measuring everything out and making sure your temperatures are right and stuff. And it's like, because if the temperature's off a little bit, it'll mess up. If your formulation's off a little bit, it's going to mess up. If the oven's not hot enough, you're going to mess up. If your mold gets cold, as like, I'll tell the guys all the time, they'll be like, oh God, I'm going to get fired. I just messed up all these parts. I'm like, dude, I've been here 16 years and I just messed one up.
Yeah. Well, and your, like the thing with the pouring the urethane is you're on a literal timer too.
Yeah.
I mean, you spend 90% of your day watching and resetting that timer.
Oh yeah.
Which makes it even more stressful.
Yeah. The main thing is the good thing about it is having the few minutes in between each pour to get everything set up for the next one. So pretty much my time in between the pours is used to kind of get everything set up for the next pour, get everything ready for the next one. But I mean, once you get into the habit of it, man, I don't even think about it. I'll just sit there, I'll get the next one weighed up or whatever, and then I'll go over and tickle Joseph's butthole or you know, whatever to take.
Yeah.
So, have a few minutes in between.
So describe like how do y'all make the urethane? I know that it comes in 2 parts or something, and there's mocha, and that's about all I know.
Yeah, basically we get the resin that comes in the drums, stuff like that. I mean, and that's just the resin. It's not going to harden unless,
Yeah, it's not activated.
Yeah. So once we do add the hardener, which is the mocha, we melt that down. Then we add the color, whichever color they want, the dye. We add different color dyes, and basically some of the other stuff require, because it'll gel up so fast. Like you'll be sitting there mixing, and we have this one stuff where it's a harder durometer.
Yeah.
So we'll go to pour that one, and if we don't add kind of like the sanitizer, which is like a thinner, it makes it a little bit thinner and gives us a little bit more time to mix it and get it into the mold before it gels up on us.
Yeah.
So we'll have to add that sometimes. And
explain what durometer is. If you ever rode skateboards, you should know what durometer is. But
basically, the hardness of the urethane. It's like we have the softer durometers, stuff like that. The harder durometers, which will, each one of them has different, like 90 Shore A and stuff like that, and then like the stuff I was using today, I was out of, it's called PET 60. So it's a 60D or something like that. I don't know. Kenneth knows all the names. I'm just like, okay, I pour that one because it's fun. It doesn't gel up on me as fast. So
I remember the big cheese block rollers that are the yellow stuff, and they're super soft.
Oh yeah. I was about to say some of the stuff, I mean, you pull it out of if you pull it out of the oven and you accidentally drop it, it's gonna just rip.
Yeah.
It's like, and some of you can just rip it with your hands.
Yeah.
Until it cures out. Each part that we pour has to be cured out in the oven overnight to get it to its full hardness, the proper durometer, whatever.
So you're talking about that. Describe your working conditions in the shop.
Well, I haven't been molested since you left.
Okay. So is that an improvement or?
It gets boring.
Yeah, it's a little A and B.
No, actually, it's really laid back. I mean, you remember. I mean, things haven't really changed. I mean, we're just, as long as you show up and do your job, boss man's happy. It's like I usually have a quota I try and reach. I tell myself, okay, by the end of the day, I need to get 30 of these pours.
Yeah.
And depending on what stuff I'm pouring, some of them have a 5-minute breakout, some of them have a 35-minute breakout.
Yeah.
So, and as far as the atmosphere, everybody gets along with everybody. Nobody fights. We just
no Kyles,
no Chris's, no. I was gonna say.
Does Kenneth give you a quota, or you just kind of set that up yourself based on?
No, I just kind of set it. I mean, he's happy if I'm getting anything over pretty much 25 pours a day. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely happier when, he's like, how many did you get today? And I'm like, oh, I got 35 pours a day. Yeah. He's like, whoa, congratulations. He's like, good job. And then, of course, he's like, how many did you get? I was like, 18. He's like, what the fuck you been doing all day?
Yeah. And is Kenneth still pouring?
It's still pouring. Hell yeah, that man ain't never gonna stop. A fool comes in and is like, "Hey, where were you yesterday? Oh, I was in the hospital. I'm ready to work now." It's like,
Kenneth, if you're watching this, I don't think you fully understand the point of being the owner yet.
yeah, I was about to say, it's like if I would be in the office right now, it's like sitting in there and be like, "No, he's out there." I'd say he's works harder than all of us, man. Put together.
I tell my students that Kenneth's forearms are bigger than my biceps. Like,
yeah,
for real,
dude. He's still like I told him. I said the other day. I said, "Didn't we have a long discussion about you pouring all this heavy shit?"
Yeah.
Because like I'll go to lift it up and I'm like, God damn, I'm 20 years younger than him.
And those big V rollers.
Yes, the big hourglass rollers.
Yeah. I'll see him pull those out, and you're like,
what the fuck?
Dude, what do you like? Wait.
I was about to say it's like because he's supposed to be like talking about retiring in a few years, and it's like
that was 10 years ago, Kenneth.
Yeah, it was 10 years ago, and it's like, okay, now he's almost, he's got 3 more years till he hits 65 or whatever, and he can retire. And I'd be like, your ass ain't retiring. He's gonna come up there all the time and be like, let me show you how to do this.
It's interesting though because like you see, and I'm not trying to classify like, oh, we're the World War II generation or something like that, but like I see so many people wherever I go.
Mm-hmm.
I go to Whataburger, and they can't give me napkins and straws. Like they forget that.
Yeah.
Or I go to Home Depot and the lady's like, "Oh, did you get a price on this?" And I'm like, "That's not my job."
Yeah. I'll go in there and look for
the computer.
I'll tell it like the other day I was in Lowe's and I was looking for these light fixtures that are hardwired into my ceiling. You can't just change the bulb.
Okay, yeah.
So I was like, all right. So I went to Lowe's, and I'm like looking for them. And it's like, yo, they said they fucking have them here.
Yeah. It says
I tracked down the
97
one guy
in stock.
Yeah, it's like, I tracked down the one guy. He goes, I don't work this department, but let me find somebody that can help you. I was like, all right, cool, no problem. I understand that. It's not your department.
Yeah.
Go to the next guy. He brings somebody by, and he's like, let me look that up. And he's like, yeah, it says, yeah, we have. He goes, they should be right here. And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, okay, then they're just out of stock, but they says they're in stock. Well, he finally looks it up, and he goes, oh, you got to order these online. And I was like, and pick them up here? And he's like, I guess.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And I was like, okay. I was like, so I'll go do that then.
Yeah.
I was like,
so like back to the Kenneth thing, it's you're like, Kenneth, why are you working so hard? Like you've done all this work to set this thing up to run itself. But then on the flip side, I get it. It's like he has pride.
Yeah, this is his company.
Yeah,
he started from the ground up, and and at least he's not like he's like, okay, no, it has to be this way. It has to be.
Yeah.
He's like pretty cool and laid back with everything, but it's like like we just recently let 2 people go. They started. One of them showed up for work one day, wouldn't show up the next day, showed up again, and Kenneth gave him was like, hey, if you got a problem, just call in.
Yeah.
And these kids nowadays, man, they're like, they don't understand the concept of, hey, I got to go to work and I got to call in.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, if I don't show up. And then, so Kenneth just kept giving him chance after chance after chance. And the one guy, Kenneth even helped him out as much as he could because his brother died. And I understand that. But he was like, take some time off. He wasn't going to at first, but he was like, take some time off, go. Yeah. Well, he took that as, okay, I'm going to take 2 weeks off. I'll be back in 2 weeks. So, and then he showed up one day, and Kenneth was pretty pissed, but he was like, hey, I'll let you have some time off, but, I didn't mean to take off 2 weeks. And then he's like, okay, well, I'll be in tomorrow. And then he doesn't show up. And then he shows up like 2 days later. And it's like, oh, my car broke down. And then
next thing, your phone break down?
Yeah, it's like, son of a bitch. And it's like, finally, it's like, hey, I got to let you go. And they're like, I don't understand why.
And it seems like, that's part of this podcast is like giving people opportunity to see jobs that are out there that they don't know about and like how many opportunities there are, but also just to talk about what seems to be just the shift in this country with the attitude towards work. I don't know if it's like because we were raised in the country or what, but I think about y'all being at Pops, with the ranch and always having stuff to do. The restaurant,
I was about to say,
at the restaurant.
I tell people all the time. I was like, I started working when I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
The longest I've ever been without work is probably right after high school. Remember when we worked at Compact? And
yes.
We were trying to
yeah. One day.
One day. We pulled one day out that motherfucker. Just let the record show that I was going to go back the second day, but Joel wouldn't pick me up. I didn't have a car. But no, and I was about to say, and that was probably like those few months was probably the longest I've ever been without a job.
Yeah.
And it's like I went from, every job I went to was going from one job. I'd quit or whatever. Yeah, because I've never been fired. So I quit every job, but immediately started the next one.
Yeah, you had a plan.
Yeah. Seek better employment.
I don't know. It's, is it just, now we're over 40 and this is the beginning of getting old and we just, get off my lawn all the time. Or is the success of this country built upon like people pulling their weight?
Well, I mean, like I said, I think with us, our parents always instilled in us this, like, look, you work, you get things. You don't work, you don't have shit.
Yeah.
It's like, so you constantly, have that knocked into your, through, even in our school, back when we went to school, the teachers would straight up tell you, be like, look, if you don't put forth the work, you don't get shit back.
Man, Mr. Lindley, the other auto tech teacher, he tells his literal kids at home, but then his kids as in his students, you don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, look at like all of nature. Like you, if you're not working to chase something down, then the downside is you're going to be one of the ones that gets eaten. So if you get to sit there and eat the grass all day, you have to worry about getting murdered.
It's like you got the two lions, and then one of them chases down the gazelle and eats it, and the other one's like, I'm just going to hang back.
Yeah, I'm just going to sit here and chill.
And it's like, oh, well, then he dies from starvation. You're like...
It's just trying to get... And I know that it's like 45-year-old me trying to relate with 15, 16, 17-year-old kids and thinking back to that time and not being really accurate as to my attitude.
Yeah.
Like how it was back then. But then I also know that like we all worked. When I got out of high school, I wasn't doing well in college, but I was going to college, and then on my days off, I'd work with my dad, and then at night I'd go work at Stockman's.
Yeah.
As a busboy. And now I realize like how little money I had, but the feeling, at the time, the feeling was like,
well, see,
dude, I got money.
Yeah, think about it at the time too. Like when we were younger, like most of my money went towards like
CDs.
Yeah, CDs. It'd be like, with me, I had to buy my own clothes because my dad was like, damn it, you're gonna wear Wranglers and
you're gonna starch them and
yeah. And he's like, I was like, fuck. And so, but even back then, I was never buying the big expensive clothes. I was like, go to Walmart and just buy my own clothes.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we didn't really have to pay for shit. It's that was, I put a little bit I could to save up or whatever. But back then, I was like 18, so I had to buy cigarettes.
Yeah.
And it's like, luckily Tony bought all the beer.
Yeah.
So, I just hang out with him. But no, but I've always tried to put, even when I was back then, try and put something into savings where like people nowadays would be like, how much you got in savings? They're like, savings?
No, there's, you can get online and I'll go through that with my students about like, I'm making numbers up, but it's literally something to the effect of like 70% of Americans don't have savings.
Yeah.
And then out of the 25% that do, most people don't have enough savings to pay for their bills more than a month.
Oh yeah. I was about to say like, most of my savings, like, because I pay my taxes separately.
Yeah.
I make sure through the whole course of the year,
my
wife and I are both, and we both have to work. To afford the lifestyle that we've gotten accompanied to, or gotten used to.
Yeah.
We both have to put money in. We both have to put money aside, and we still buy stuff. We, buy the shit we don't need.
I'll say this though, you've always been like, if I wasn't married, I would just live on the property in a tent and have a million broken motorcycles, and I'd be happy, but that would just be like my existence. But even when you were living over off 1960, dude, what were you were making like $10 an hour, living completely on your own.
Yep.
You had your, I remember you had it down to like, I can rent
three
Redbox DVDs this week, or I can rent a video game.
Back when the Blockbuster was a thing, it'd be like, okay, on Friday night, I can rent like 3 or 4 movies, It's like, okay, this is how many times I can eat out a week.
Yeah.
And like nothing over $10, because back then you could get, everything was so much cheaper.
Yeah.
The food was cheaper. Everything was like, oh, I could even go to a restaurant, and get something cheap and just take it home with me.
So in the past couple years, y'all moved out of your house in Cypress. You had a house built on how much land?
It's like 1.3 acres.
Okay, and you're kind of outside of College Station.
Yeah, we're in that Grimes County, so we got that cheaper taxes. Yeah, which was part of my plan.
Do you attribute your being able to do that to like good planning, or what's the secret?
Good planning and good investments. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like the reason I had enough money to buy the house, the land and everything is the fact that, I bought in a really good location. The first house that I bought, we bought it in Cypress, and it was in a neighborhood that was just barely built.
Yeah.
And just like right there in the heart of Cyprus. So, I mean, everything just kind of grew up around it, and with it, the property value skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So by the time I sold my house, I'd already been in it 10 years. And so when I sold it, I made a small fortune, and that was enough to buy the property and use it as collateral to have the house built. Yeah.
How old were you when you bought the first house?
First house, I was 26 or 27.
I thought mid-20s, early 20s.
Yeah.
And that's another one I talk to students about. Is I'm going to be a welder, and I'm like, okay, be a welder. And then they go out and they get a good job, and then they're like, I'm going to buy a $90,000 truck on credit and roll my $15,000 rims into it. And I'm like, dude,
no, I was about
like buy something that's going to.
That's another thing is like all of my vehicles have been base model vehicles.
Yeah.
I'm talking manual windows, everything, even the nicer new trucks that I got.
Yeah.
All the way up until this one. And that's only because like I had a kid, my wife and I were expecting, our calling. And my wife made the mistake of saying, get something nice for once. So you can't, I mean, I didn't even buy the nicest one they had on the lot, even though the guy was like, oh, you can definitely afford it. Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, the secret to having a happy, wonderful life with beautiful things is have good credit.
Yeah.
I was about to say, you can get anything you want as long as you got good credit.
Yeah. But I think that's part of, like, I try to explain to students or just younger people of like, having good credit is probably 90% mindset. So Ellen has like, I bet she has like 250 grand in credit card, like that she could buy.
Yeah.
But she doesn't.
Yeah. Just because you have that.
Yes.
Max. Yeah. I have never maxed out a credit card, and I refuse to.
Yeah.
It's like,
and she's, we're real big into like, we use our credit card all the time, but we pay it off every month because she hates to pay any interest on anything. Mm-hmm. Maybe like to our detriment sometimes.
Yeah.
But trying to explain that to people of like, just like you're wanting something doesn't mean that you need it.
Oh yeah.
And it seems like the other thing I've noticed the older I get is, I don't know if you have this experience, but like you really want something, you get it, and then it doesn't take long before you realize it didn't quite fill that hole.
Oh no, I was about to say, like the truck. The truck is a prime example. I bought the, I think it was the Laramie. It's like heated and cool seats, all leather, all this other, all this fancy shit like that. And I'm still paying on it, and I'm like, you know what? I could have bought the Bighorn, which was way cheaper.
Yeah.
Have it already paid off by now, and it still comes with 90% of the shit.
Yeah.
That my truck has now, and I'm like, well, that was really stupid. It's like I kind of want to go back on that one.
Yeah, I don't. It's like hindsight's 20/20. Mm-hmm. But I think especially that's a difference between like, how old are you now?
42.
42-year-old you versus 25-year-old you.
25-year-old me would have been like, I'll get the base model.
Oh, see, I mean, because like,
I would definitely want the nicer one.
Yeah. Like, I would say I think most people are like, oh, I have to have this. I have to have this brand of clothes, and you're like, at least for me, I'm like, why? I mean, I this is just a recurring theme. But I ask the kids like, how much are your shoes? And they're like, oh, 300 or 400. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Does it make you happy? And they're like, totally makes me happy. I'm like, cool. So when they come out with the next model, what are you going to do? And they're like, I'm going to get them. And I'm like, I thought those shoes made you happy. And they're like, they do. And I'm
they do. For right now.
Yeah.
I was about to say, for right now, I am very happy.
So I'm like, do you see the game you're in? And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, I mean, they'll keep the economy going, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like with me, it's I do have nice things. The older I've gotten, I have actually started to get nicer things. And it took me a while to get to that point where I was like, you know what? Let me spend money. Like, I bought a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses, and I was like, why the fuck do I need a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses? But then I was also like, when I go out and people are like, damn, you got those Ray-Bans? And I'm like, yeah, bitch, I do.
Do you think like with age comes better, comes better judgment.
Well, yeah, I mean, because like, especially like say with the sunglasses and the shit like that, it's like I can finally afford nicer things. And here I was, being able to afford all these nice stuff, but I was still getting the cheap shit.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself like, damn, like,
yeah, there's
breaks really quick.
There's a reverse, a reciprocal to it of like, I do that all the time. I'm like, get on Amazon and find the cheapest thing, and then I have it, and that instant satisfaction, and then it breaks, and I'm like,
if I would have just paid the money for the...
Yeah.
No, I mean, same thing with like video gaming headsets. This is a prime example. I mean, like, here you go, you can buy the cheap, $90 ones or whatever that every time I get them, they break.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know what? If I would have just paid the $125,
Yeah.
$130.
Yeah, and you're already in
set.
for like $240 for three cheap sets.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, so, it's like I'm playing with my friends online, and they're like, I can't hear you. And I'm like, fuck these things.
Okay, so at work, this is one that I love to pound on. Describe the importance of paying attention.
The what?
That's why I have that question. And again, I'm not like talking smack about students because they're young, but it's amazing how much you're like, hey, I need you to do this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. You got it? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, cool. And then they go, what do you want me to do?
See, the fact that I'm older, my memory is not as good as it used to be. So when Kenneth will tell me, hey, I need you to pour 17 that are, 8.5 by, or 11 3/4 by 8.5, ID, and stuff like that. And he'll tell me, and then I need you to pour 20 of these that are going to be 7-inch OD with a 4.5 ID. And I just kind of look at him like, one more time?
Yeah.
I have to write it down now.
Dude,
I've gotten to the point where it's like, instead of making the mistake of thinking that I remember what he said, I just write it down so that way I can look at it and go, okay, this is what I need to pour today.
And I really like that saying, the mistake of thinking. I'm making some cabinets, and I'll take a measurement, and then I walk over to the saw, and I'm like, I think I remember. And then I cut it, and it's wrong. And I'm like, dude, I grab a piece of scrap, and I'm like, 2 at 16.5, 2 at 17 3/4, 4 at whatever, and then I can just check them off. And so when we're building a project, I'm like, hey guys, like, you got to write your plans down. And they're like, oh, why do I have to have plans? And I'm like,
no, dude, I still to this day make Kenneth give me the formulation written down on paper. So that way, I've learned a lot of times where it's like, I think I remember pouring something this way. I'd be like sometimes it's something as simple as like, I could have swore that last time I poured these, and every time before that, they were black. And Kenneth's like, no, these things have always been red.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, I just poured 20 of them the wrong color.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, well, now they're not good.
I see the videos all the time where like the Mandela effect, and they're like, it was the Berenstain Bears. And I'm like, I remember it's the Berenstain Bears too. Like, I remember that. But then I found 2 of the books myself, and it's Berenstain. And I'm like, okay, so what's more likely? That the government found they somehow had technology to tag all the books in the world, and then they snuck into my garage at night and like took the cover apart, or maybe replaced it with the book that says Berenstain, or that our memories are just not as good as we would like to think.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've learned a long time ago. It's like my memory is, I mean, I've always had a good like photographic memory, stuff like that. I can remember shit that some people are like, how do you remember that? Especially my wife, she'll be like, that was like 20 years ago. How do you remember that? And I'll be like, no, you said this.
Yeah. Casey and Mighty Bomb Jack.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so safety. It's one that we talk about a lot at school because we've got saws and stuff. But what's the safety culture at your job? What do you have personal protection equipment you're required to wear?
Yes.
Do you have to wear safety glasses?
Yes.
You don't have to though, right? Because the machinist side does.
The machinist side does, yeah. Now we are pretty strict on the machine side because, like with me, the worst thing that usually happens is I burn myself, or I cut my finger with an X-Acto knife, or we had this one kid that worked with us, and he decided to smoke a lot of weed before operating the grinder.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And his finger went into the grinder, and it came out looking like when you put a hot dog in a microwave for too long,
it splits. Yeah,
that's what his finger looked like.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, but I mean, we do have I'm supposed to wear safety glasses, but only when I'm like using the grinder or if I go over to the lathe. And
Yeah.
me personally, I do it because I don't want to lose an eye.
Yeah.
I like having both. But
your boots, are they steel toe?
Yep.
Okay, that's...
Yeah, I was about to say, we do have no matter what side of the shop you work on, you have to have steel toe because we all lift metal. We all help out with rollers. And so we do have to have steel toe. And of course, like I said, when we operate the machines, we can't have gloves on.
Yeah.
I was about to say, if you have gloves on and the machine takes your hand, it's taking your whole arm.
We talk about this at school all the time. And I tell them, I'm like, it's better to get your finger in a saw blade without the glove.
Yeah, because
than with the glove.
Yeah, you're going to lose more than just a little bit of the digit. You're going to lose the whole hand.
Yeah, better to get a clean cut all the way through.
Yeah, I was about to say, you can have start with your glove. Your glove gets caught up in there, and then it gets your fingers, then your wrist, then your arm, and you're up to your elbow before you realize, oh crap, that's all gone now.
Yeah. I'm trying to think about what else about safety. So I was thinking about this the other day. I can't remember if I did it and it went through and Joseph was on the mill, or if Joseph did it and it came through and I was on the mill. So going back to like how flawed our memories are. But one of us chucked up like an 8-inch round by 8-inch thick solid piece of steel in the really big lathe.
Oh,
and it flew through the wall.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, I tell them about like the reason they call it an accident.
Yeah.
Is because nobody was...
Oh, I was about to say, like, there for a while, we had to wear face shields because Joseph had his safety glasses on and he was doing a thread protector and he was taking some threads off, like machining some of the threads down. And it just, one of those weird things where it didn't snag good enough. And when he hit it with the bit, it flopped the urethane, spun out, bounced off the wall, hit Joseph in the face, busted his nose, busted his lip. I mean, it could have been worse, but I mean, for the next few weeks, like his lip was just looked like somebody like just beat the hell out of him.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was just from a thread protector.
Yeah.
Something we do every single day.
Yeah. So it wasn't even metal. It was urethane.
Yeah. It wasn't even, it wasn't even metal.
I don't know how many times I got whipped in the face stripping rollers.
I haven't done that in years.
Yeah. You're lucky.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like, that's the urethane side. I'm like looking over there and Joseph's getting slapped in the arm with urethane. And I'm like, I ain't doing that.
Or I tell the kids, I'm like, oh, like you should get into machining. And then they'll be machining something on the mill and like a hot chip will come off and
they're like,
and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you that's like pretty much every day, pretty much every week. And they're like, no.
I'd say the worst of mine is when I sandblasted my back.
How do you sandblast your back?
Okay, like, I had the hose, I set the hose down for a second to turn it off or whatever. And when I turned around, my cord was wrapped around the cord. And when I turned it flew off. I put a shaft on it so it wouldn't move. Yeah. But I didn't realize that my other hoses were, that sends the air through, that was tangled. So when I turned, it just pulled it out from under the shaft and shot up my back. Yeah. I had to like scrub sand out of my back.
And just for people that are wondering, the sandblaster is run by like a 40 horsepower turbine compressor, and the hose on it is like this big. So if you aim it at a 55-gallon drum for like 30 seconds straight, it will just chew through. It's not like a little...
No, it's
cabinet blaster.
Yeah, it'll definitely chew. It'll chew through the metal.
Yeah. Does this job give you any freedom that a normal job might not?
Oh yeah, I was about to say with us. I mean, if I need a day off, I can just tell my boss to be like, hey, my wife and I want to go to Galveston, and take the boy or whatever. Yeah. Take a little.
I just need a break.
Yeah, I just need a break, and he'd be like, okay, that's fine. Just let me know in advance. Vacation, same thing, just let them know in advance. A lot of times I can come in, late and stuff like that. I try not to.
Yeah.
If I come in late, he doesn't ride my ass. He'd just be like, oh, okay, did you bring donuts?
Yeah.
So I'll be like, oh, yeah, I brought donuts. So
that was one that I learned, when y'all started getting more employees, I was coming in late and Kenneth was like, hey, like you can't do that. And I was like, Kenneth, I stay every, I'm very cautious to make sure that I'm putting in the extra time at the end of the day. And, I was arguing back with him. And then finally he was like, hey, do you want to work here? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, then
show up to work on time.
You're going to do it my way. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I mean, one, it was a really good lesson for me. And two, he was nice enough to like point out, he was like, I understand that you're doing that, but then other people don't see that you're staying late. Yeah. They're showing up late. And he's like, pretty soon I got people showing up at all kinds of different times. And I was like, all right, like I didn't think of it from that perspective. Yeah. But a good lesson for me. At school, the rule is if both feet aren't inside the door when the bell rings, you're tardy, and they have to go get a tardy pass. Yeah. And they're like, oh, this school is, more strict than any other school in our district. Why are they like this? Yada, yada, yada.
It's like, well, and I'm like, in real life, show up to your job late and a couple times and see what happens.
Yeah. And Kenneth told me, he was like, look, if you're, if you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time. Did I say that right? I think I did. But I remember him telling all of us, like, when y'all come in the morning and you want to sit down and talk to each other, you can do that 10 minutes before work starts.
Oh, yeah. But, or like when we try to eat breakfast, sit down and eat breakfast that time. He's like, I'm not paying y'all to sit here and eat breakfast.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, like, being at a young enough age where you're like, oh, I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, it's like, I don't understand. My breakfast burrito is good, and I want to eat it. Yeah. And it's like, that can wait.
Yeah, that's on your time. This is my time. I'm paying you. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, oh, I think that their jobs just aren't paying enough now for people to care. And I'm like, all right, I can see both sides. But man, at a certain point, like, you're trying to make money as a business operator or owner.
It's like,
these are the conditions, like either take it or don't.
It's like that. Your boss has to not only pay your salary, but pay everybody else's salary that works there, and pay for all the equipment, pay for all the materials, pay for everything, and their taxes. They get taxed on everything. Yeah. Everything in that shop he has to pay taxes on. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you have how many lathes? Oh, you have to pay taxes on those. Yeah. Every piece of new equipment you got, you have to pay taxes on those. Yeah. And it's like, so he has to do all that. If you come in, you're just sitting there, you're like, okay, I got 13 pours today. Woohoo! Well, that's not even made enough to pay your salary.
Yes, yeah. And it's back to like, okay, so if you're, like, I think if there was a kid in Autotech the other day, real nice kid, but he said, hey, I work at Little Caesars, like, come in, I'll hook you up, I'll give you free breadsticks, I'll do whatever. And I was like, oh, that's really nice of you. And I was like, of course, it's not your breadsticks, And he's like, oh, I don't care. And I'm like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it's like,
but at some point, let's just say down the road that you own a Little Caesars or your own business or whatever it is, your attitude's going to change when people are like, it's not mine, I'm just giving it away.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do I care?
But yeah, it goes back to the time thing of like, when you're a minute late, it doesn't make a difference, but it starts to add up. And then you think about a company that has 100 employees or 1,000 employees. It's like, man, that's a lot of money over the course of a year or 5 years or 10 years.
Well, just like, my other job I had before this, you had like, I was working maintenance, and we had people in maintenance, and then people in like housekeeping. They were like taking toilet paper home, taking paper towels home, and there was like, finally had to stop locking everything up and be like, look, people are just taking this shit. And they're like, well, they don't pay us very much, so it's okay.
Yeah. And it's like, there's a King Missile song called Take Shit From Work. It's like, it'll make you feel better, But I'm like, yeah, there's a certain amount of me that gets that. But on the other side, it's like, okay, well, I can't afford a really nice TV. So if I come to your house and I take your really nice TV, are you going to be...
Say, but I wanted it.
And they're like, well, that's mine. And I'm like, yeah, but it's the businesses. Like, so, somebody built that business up.
Oh, yeah.
Just trying to get people to maybe understand that aspect. What are some of the challenges of your job?
Waking up in the morning.
Going to work, right?
I was about to say, I've been doing this job forever, and I still have to get up early, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I was about to say, that's no, the challenges of my job, I mean, my thing is just staying focused.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll be doing stuff, and I get into such a routine of doing it that I just kind of drift off.
You're on autopilot.
I am. Yeah. I'm seriously. And the older I've gotten, the worse it's gotten. Where it's like, especially me having a kid later in life, I was like, I want to be at home with my son. I want to go home and play with my son. I don't want to sit here and work.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point sometimes where I'll just like be daydreaming, and I'm like, where am I? Like, what have I done? I was like, I pour like 3 or 4 different things, and I'm like, damn, I don't even remember what I was doing. So the hardest part for me is like staying focused, doing that. And then as far as the work, I mean, the summer has gotten really hot.
I was going to mention the heat. Yeah,
I was about to say I sweat. I've never sweated like this in my entire life. The older I've got, the worse it's gotten. I sweat like crazy.
The shop is air conditioned, but y'all have the ovens.
I'm in an oven that's like 250 degrees.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So I'm constantly in and out of this oven.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really taking a toll. And it's like, God dang. It's like,
yeah.
So that's why I drink so much water. It's like, I have a water fountain there, thank God, because I have to sit there and drink water because I'm sweating everything out.
Yeah. I tell people, they're like, oh, I'm going to be a welder. I'm like, that's cool. Yeah. The jobs are there. It's hot. I've had kids that'll be like, oh man, what are you doing? They're like, oh, it's too hot. And I'm like, bro, we're in an air conditioned shop. Like you're probably not going to start out welding inside.
Yeah. I'm not going to say the guy's name, but I know a guy that, he was like, hey, I'm going to go to AC repair tech or whatever.
Yeah.
Go and do that, get certified in that and work on ACs and stuff like that until he found out he had to go up in people's attics during the summer.
Yeah,
and he's
or
like,
you got to be on top of a commercial building, in the open sun on a reflective roof or whatever.
Yeah. And they're like, you know what? No. I want to work in like a refrigerated unit and work on those.
Yeah, and that's what I try to get them to understand is this is, I'm not for the like everybody needs to go to college. We've known that was wrong for a long time, but I think on the flip side, like I tell my kids. Oh, what kind of grades are you making? And they go, I make straight A's. I'm in AP physics and chemistry K and blah, blah, blah. And I go, cool. Like, what are you going to do? I'm going to go to college to study this. Okay, well, then go do that. And I'll say, what kind of grades do you make? And they go, I do like C's, some B's, D's. And I go, what's your plan? And they go, well, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, you can still make a lot of money.
Don't go to college.
And don't go to college. That's fine. But most, at least in my experience, I think the part that they're also not talking about, like we went from the like, hey, everybody's going to go to college. And now we're like, no, you don't need to go to college. But if you're not going to go to college, there's a good chance that you're going to do some kind of physical labor or you're going to be in some kind of setting that's not like sitting in an office, which for me is okay. I don't want to, like, I love my job. Because it seems like I'm in a mixture of both. Yeah. But I get to move around a lot. I do feel the weather change because we'll have the doors open. So if it's really cold, it's really cold. If it's really hot, it's really hot. But I'm also like you, where still have the AC to kind of go back into.
Oh yeah.
But trying to get them to understand, like, you're going to work with at least one, your hands or your brain.
Yeah.
If you're lucky,
unless you're a porn star, and then you work with your penis.
Yes, that's true.
So that's always something to fall back on.
Yeah. And it seems like there's a really high demand for those positions right now.
I was about to say, it's like, man, it's like so easy nowadays to make money off that. I'm thinking about starting my OnlyFans page.
Let me know how it goes. We could have a second interview if that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm making a lot of money. Just don't tell my wife.
What's the greatest challenge you ever faced in any job? It could be this one or any job you ever had, or what was the?
I was about to say probably the biggest challenge was getting a promotion. Like a lot of people would be like, like I said, I dealt with not having a college education when I first got out of high school.
Yeah.
And you go get a job, you work your ass off, and it's like, hey, this one guy just came in. He didn't have to work up the ladder.
Yeah.
He came in and got the job that I was after.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, okay, well, the hell with this. I'm tired of working my ass off and not getting a promotion. It's like, so, I mean,
that's one that I guess I've kind of just like noticed or learned about through the years. But you go somewhere and somebody's your manager and they have the piece of paper and that's why they're manager. Mm-hmm. And you're like, man, he doesn't know anything about what he's doing. Like, this is stupid. And I hear people say it all the time. And I'm like, yes, but he doesn't need to know anything about what we're doing. He just needs to know how to make you do it.
Yeah.
And I wish somebody would have maybe like explained that a little better.
Oh yeah.
When I was younger.
And plus, there's been several jobs that I've worked at where it's like, okay, why are you in charge of me? You don't know a damn thing about what you're doing. Well, my uncle is,
Yeah.
Like, okay,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Ain't nothing you can do about that. Yeah. It's like, oh, right. I get it now.
Yeah. Was there any challenge that you had that, like shaped you or made you have like an aha moment where you kind of realized how the world worked? While you think about that, since we're talking about Sinjo, for me, and I think I must have been 30, was always asking Kenneth what to do next.
Oh, yeah.
And then I realized one day, like, he seemed irritated every time I asked him that. And also he had a list.
Yeah.
So like I just started going down the list.
I still to this day bug him, but I think he realizes that, like the other day, I was loading up the oven. I said, "How's that look, Kenneth?" And he looks at me and goes, "You've been doing this long enough. You don't need to ask me that."
Yeah.
And I said, "I know. I just like to make sure."
Yeah. It's like a quality control pride thing.
Yeah, I was about to say, I just want you to know that I'm thinking about what I'm doing. I'm not just throwing shit in here and be like, I want you to know that I actually think about what I'm doing and not just throwing shit in there and be like, okay, whatever, this will work.
Yeah, you're having pride for what you do.
Yeah. So.
And you're thinking efficiently. I know that there would be times at the end of the day where we're trying to get like 400 parts in the oven and it will only go in like in a magical order.
Yeah.
But yeah, after a while he was like, "Oh, I noticed you haven't been asking me what to do." And I was kind of like, "Yeah, it just seems like you got other things to do." And he was like, "I do. I do.
Yeah.
I have a lot of other things to do." But I was like, I felt dumb because I was like, damn, like I'm 30 and I'm just now learning that. Imagine if you could go back and realize some of these things.
Well, I think
at 20 or 18.
I think one of the things that's like really helpful too is like I've got to the point now where Kenneth has been like, you pour these, you organize them, you do this. So now it'll come to the point where, I've been there long enough and know where everything is and I'll pour stuff. And then Kenneth will come to me and he'll be like, "Do you know where this is?" And I'll be like, or anytime he's looking for a mold, he'll be like, "Ask Seth." He'll tell me, "Ask Seth." And I'll be like, "Oh shit, yeah, that's part of my job."
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to know where everything's at now.
Yeah. So like you have your babies.
Yeah.
To take care of.
Oh yeah, it's like I have to organize, keep everything where it's supposed to be, and then when Kenneth's looking for something, he'll just be like, "Hey, I don't know where this is. Where is it?" And I'm like, "It's on this shelf, second shelf, down 2 from the right." And he'll be like, "Okay, thank you."
Yeah. I don't care where it is as long as you know.
As long as I know where it's at, and it's like, "Oh, okay, good." Yeah.
We went to Kroger's to get something to eat the other day, and they have the self-checkout things, which I normally go to, and I was with Cody, and he just like went towards where the lady was in the register, and when we walked up, she was on her phone, and she like just looked up at us, and it was just like,
I gotta do my job.
Yeah, and it was so weird because it's like, dude, you're mad at me. If I wasn't here, they wouldn't need you.
Yeah,
like,
they don't need you.
Do you not recognize how this works? Is your work rewarding, or what's rewarding about your work?
I was about to say, I mean, everything. There's always something that I get out of my job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, of course, there's the paycheck.
Yeah.
There's the bonuses.
Yes.
But there's also that sense of, like I hear people constantly complain about their job.
Yeah.
And how much they hate it and all this other stuff. And I mean, I'll just sit there and listen to people. And I think to myself and be like, I don't have any of those problems,
And you've always said like, oh, I'm really lucky. I go to work with my best friend every day.
Oh, yeah. So pretty much I get paid to hang out with my best friend and his dad, which,
Well, and they're, I mean, like, couldn't ask for better people.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say, I mean, of course, you're going to have a problem with it. Whoever you work with, especially the older you get, I've gotten to the point where it's like, I guess I've never liked people telling me what to do or giving me orders. And it's like, and with Kenneth, he asks you, he's like, "Hey, do you mind pouring these?" Yeah. It's also, the way they talk. Yeah, the way they talk to you. It'd be like, "Hey, I need 27 of these." I'd be like, "Go fuck yourself."
Yeah.
They'd be like, "I need a day off." So
yeah.
With him, he's always polite, and I think that's that mutual respect we have.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And but that makes it so much easier. But I mean, there's still those times where I'm just like, I just want to stay at home.
Yeah,
work from home. I just want to work from home doing my own thing.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to do. They'd be like, "Hey, I need you to box up 200 of these," and I'm like, "But I don't want to." It's like I'm tired. I don't want to.
Today?
Look, I understand these need to go out and be shipped, and so I can get paid too. But I was like,
what if this one time we just don't?
we just let somebody else do it.
You keep paying us, but let's just not do anything.
I'm gonna go back to making my breakfast now.
And maybe that's a lot of what we're seeing is like, and I hate to even use younger people because I see people that are our age doing the same thing, but what is going on where everybody has such like a negative attitude towards work? And I know that COVID has like been a large driver in this.
Oh God. Well, see, I wouldn't know nothing about that because I was an essential worker, so I had to work.
I thought people would be like, "Oh, cool, let's go back." Like,
yeah,
like
they're like, "No, I don't want to go back to work."
And so many people were just like, "Nah, this is nice."
Yeah, it's like, I know so many people that they were able to do their jobs from home.
Yeah,
and they basically told their boss to be like, "Look, it's been proven that I don't have to come into work. So now you want me to come into work?" It's like, no, I've gotten into a routine where I can be at home with my kids. I can take my kids to school, do my job from home, and then just send everything in on the computer.
Yeah. Elise is in that position where I think she can work from home 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
But also that's the nature of her job. Like you just said, she can do everything on the computer.
But see, they've also made it to where with all the computers, internet, like remember back in the day when you wanted to send an email, it's like, hey, give me 20 minutes, I'll send you this email. So they have made it a lot easier to where so many jobs can be done from home.
But, so what about like the aspect of people that are still doing jobs that you can't do from home, but they're just not doing them well? My thing is, and Home Depot is one of my sponsors, so I'm sorry to say this, but if you work at Home Depot, no offense, but hopefully you know who you are. So many people at Home Depot are just like at the Kroger's where they're like, "Oh, you're bothering me."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Yeah. Like, I'm not asking you to load my material for you or help me load it into my truck.
Yeah.
Can you just tell me where something is?
Yeah.
Can you not be on your phone and just do your job?
You know what's weird is we're no longer allowed to have cell phones in our shop.
Yeah.
No longer. And you would think it would be mostly because of the kids. We actually had a couple of older guys that were working for us that were constantly on their phone. Yeah. And Kenneth finally said, enough is enough. You've screwed up so many parts. And every time I look up, you're on your phone.
Yeah.
Timer's going off, which means when that timer goes off,
you're
breaking out materials.
Yeah.
His timer's going off, and this old guy just playing on his phone. I'm like, hey, did you not hear it? It's, your timer. And finally got to the point where Kenneth was like, okay, that's it. Enough with the phones.
Yeah.
So.
And I know that's rough. We tell the kids they can't have their phones, and they're like, why? But then I'll say, hey, I'm trying to teach you how to go out and get a job. I don't care what your job is. I'll teach you skills or skill sets that will help you be better than the guy next to you. Part of that is like paying attention.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, I need y'all to listen. And I'll tell them everything to do. And then I even tried doing this thing that I read about or saw on YouTube or whatever, where I would be like, okay, Seth, I need you to cut 4 pieces of 2x4. It's 16.5 inches long. Mm-hmm. Do you understand? And you go, yes. And I go, cool. Tell me what you're going to cut. And you go, I'm going to cut 4 2x4s at 16.5 inches long. And I go, that's right. You're going to cut 4 2x4s at 16.5 inches long, right? And you go, yeah. And so that's supposed to like really cement in what you're going to do. And again, granted, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, but they go off and then they come back and I'm like, what are these? And they're like, what you told me to cut. And I'm like, I told you 4 2x4s at 16.5 inches long. What are these? And I'll pull a tape and I'm like, that's 15.5. And they're like,
that's what you said.
That's what you, yeah. And I'm like, no, not only is it not what I said, it's not what you said. But we seem to have the inability to focus on
anything. Still working, going to school full time.
And living on your own.
And living on my own. I mean, with that, that's always been, even when I was doing part-time, the only time I ever did part-time was when I was in high school and I was working at the restaurant.
Yeah.
That was part-time. I'd get out for work from, I can get out of school, go work till about 10 o'clock, midnight, or get home around midnight.
Yeah.
Smoke a couple of cigarettes, watch a little bit of TV, and before I know it, I was like, damn, I can get like 5 hours of sleep now.
Yeah.
Get up, go to school, and rinse and repeat.
Are you thankful for that experience, or do you think like that experience held you back?
No,
would you?
At the time, I thought it was horrible.
Yeah.
Like when I was a teenager, I was like, "This is bullshit."
Yeah.
I spend all my time in school. I spend all my time
Yeah.
at work. I was like, I don't ever get to do this shit. And then I think back of like all the fun shit we did do.
Yeah.
You know, you just got to make time for that stuff. But
well,
like,
and
now it's like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's also the I don't have the words for it, but it's like the scarcity that makes it more valuable.
Oh yeah.
So like when we would have a Friday night to come out here to what looks like a trash filled bridge and a really crappy pond.
Yeah. Throwing rocks at trains.
Yeah. Throwing rocks at trains or whatever it is that we're doing. Looking back, was that more valuable because we had done, I don't want to say so much, but we had done other stuff that took up, our free time during the week, compared to like, if we just went to school and we didn't work and we were out here every day, would it mean as much?
Yeah, I don't think so, because then it was like you said, we were able to come out here when we could.
Yeah.
As opposed to, it's like, okay, I'm out here every day doing the same thing. It's like I got nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
All I have is my memories of us having a good time.
The example for me is, we get summers off. I get a lot of time off as a teacher. And people will be like, oh man, like you're so lucky you get that time off. And I'm like, I do. But also, my job isn't as hard as yours, but my job is stressful AF. Like this has been the most, not physically stressful, not mentally stressful, emotionally stressful.
No, I could definitely see that. I couldn't do that.
Yeah. And then, but the nice thing is that when we get the 2 weeks off for Christmas or we get summer off, dude, those days, I'm like packing it in, and it's like every single moment I'm spending, and I'm like, I gotta recharge because I know that we're gonna like, go back and hit it hard. But it really, it makes it so much worthwhile. I don't know if that's age or what, but it's
I was about to say, well, definitely, remember when we worked every single Sunday for like 2 years? It's like, okay, so I tell people all the time, I was going to school, and they're like, how many hours do you put in at work? And I'd be talking to like a professor or something like that. And I'd be like, this week I put in 53 hours this week. And they're like, when do you have time for school? I was like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, I'll be going home around 9 or 10. And it's like, and then, when you had a Saturday, it's like that Saturday was so precious.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, and now, we've had all this time off that we're back to working, 40 hours a week. And just recently, we just started working Sundays again. And part of me is excited because I'm like, yes, fucking overtime. Yeah. Yes, I love overtime. And I told my wife the other day, I was like, I don't want overtime. I was like, I want to stay home.
Well, and that goes back into like, do you think that's what we're seeing right now with a lot of the country is like people had all that time off and they reevaluated?
What's important?
Like is money not quite as important as I thought? Or is it just people are lazy? Like,
well, I know with like our generation, I think like the thing that we value most, like before it was like money, taking care of. Like with us, it's like our time. Yeah. It's like we need more time. Like that's what I'm constantly telling myself. It's like I need more time for this. Yeah. I don't have time to do my yard. And see, I have to do my in-laws' yard because Nicole's dad got cancer. So I'm doing my yard, his yard, and he's got 1.7 acres. Yeah. So I'm like, son of a bitch. It's like,
so you're really taking care of like 15 yards on the weekend.
Yeah. So it's like by the time I'm done doing the yard and everything like that, and it's like, okay, now I get to go home and I have to play with my son, because he's only, he's about to be 4. And as soon as I walk in the door, he's like, Dada! He's like, jump on the bed time. Yeah. Like, I asked me to throw him on the bed. He calls it, here comes the boom. Yeah. And I say, here come the boom! Slam his ass down on the bed and watch him bounce off. And it's like, but yeah, that's, by the time I get done doing all that, and it's like, the me time I found is, the only time I get my me time is right around 9 o'clock. I put him to bed, tell my wife, all right, you watch your Bachelorette or whatever show you're going to watch. I'm going to go in my office and I have like a nice little area where I sit with my big ass TV, turn on Netflix, and make a drink.
Yeah, that's your time to unwind.
Exactly.
I think that's maybe we haven't focused on that enough for the past, for like all of growing up.
I mean, just like with my grandpa, like his whole life was work.
That's
Is like, okay, I'm retired. I'm still going to work.
Yeah.
And then he was always finding a new job to work at so he could constantly go to work. I'd be like, well, he didn't need the money.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just working to work.
My dad doesn't work, but he is always doing something.
Yeah.
But it seems right, maybe it's right because that's just what I've seen.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, like if you're not doing something, you're just busy dying.
Yeah.
And part of me thinks that like that's ingrained in us and our genetics. So the kids are like, oh, can we just chill? And I'm like, like, dude, you can chill when you go home.
Yeah,
like,
chill on your time.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, well, I have band and I have this. I'm like,
well, that's
nobody's making you do that. Like you're doing that because you want to, hopefully.
Yeah, see, like with me, I sacrifice sleep for my.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, as long as I can get in 5 to 6 hours of sleep. Yeah. But I told Nicole, like every night, that hour or two that I spend by myself, I need that.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
I can sit in the shop after school and work on something, but it's not work.
Yeah.
It's like I've got the music playing really loud. I'm listening to what I want to listen to. Nobody's bothering me. And even though I'm technically working, it's almost like meditation where I can just get into that zone. Or I can go home and I watch, I think I've watched like all of MASH 6 times. And I start it over and I'm like, I know it like verbatim, but that's just like my little thing where it's something that's familiar and I can just kind of drop, tune in and drop out. What do you dislike about your job?
That I have to go to it every day. No, I was about to say, I'd say the main thing for me is probably just the heat.
Yeah, the heat. The
heat. I was about to say if I could get it cold, like Joseph's side of the shop, the machine side. Yeah. It's always so nice and cool. The ACs are blowing. It's like, but that side of the shop, they're more manual work going on over there.
Yeah. So you have a trade off.
Yeah. I was like, I'll be sitting there like mixing, and I got this drill going, and I'm sitting there mixing, and the whole time I've got like sweat running down my back into my ass crack, and I'm like, this is getting old. It's like I'm sweating like a fucking pig every day. And it's like, I'd say that's probably the only bad thing about my job is just all the damn. Now, winter's not as bad, but then, of course, you're like freezing. Yeah. So I'm like constantly trying to get in the oven.
And it's like, that's just the grass is always greener. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, and my students, they're, God bless them, they're really good and they seem better every year. But it's just too much sensory overload sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, man, I should just start building cabinets or something. Like I'm gonna quit doing this and I'm just gonna go back to like working for myself. And then I'll go do a job on the weekend. I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's hot. Like I forgot what reality was like, so then the Monday I'm like, man, I'm so glad to see y'all, and they're like, what's up? And I'm like, oh, sorry, I had a taste of reality this weekend. I'm back.
But like with me, I've been trying to get into that trading stocks, online, stuff like that. It's like, I tell myself all the time, it'd be like, I'll be sitting there working, sweating, doing whatever. It'd be like, I could be at home right now sitting in front of my computer.
Day trading.
Yeah, day trading. It'd be like, watch the one guy make $1,500 before lunch. And he's like, all right, well, I'm going to go play golf now. And I'd be like, okay, I found my dream job. I just want to sit at a computer in my house, in my underwear, drinking coffee, selling stocks.
So that goes back to this whole thing is that was a major factor into why I wanted to do this is because I have so many kids come through and I go, what are you going to do? And they go, I'm going to be a YouTube star. And I go, cool. How many YouTube videos have you made? And they're like, I haven't made any. And I'm like, oh, so when are you going to start? And they're like, soon.
It's on my to-do list.
And so I was like, oh, like I wonder what the realistic feasibility is of success. Granted, that's based on like how much my input is, but I know that even with I don't want to say it's hard, but like setting up a time where we can both meet, that's a challenge, but it's not a big challenge. The next challenge will be, can I set up 8 hours to edit this? Yeah. And somebody out there is going to be like, oh, well, that you just need to pay somebody to edit it. And I'm like, yeah.
Okay. So
but that costs money.
So, yeah.
If I had the money.
Just like I could pay somebody to do my yard.
Yeah, exactly. And like, yeah, I mean, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd be having a merry fucking Christmas. Well, I was going to ask what's the solution for that, for the part that you dislike about your job, but I don't think that's just.
I was about to say
it comes with the game.
Wait for that whole global warming thing, and everything to freeze up. And,
So you need an atomic winter or a
I was
nuclear
telling Kenneth,
winter.
I said, why don't we just move the shop to Colorado or someplace?
Yeah, I'm down.
He's like taxes.
Yeah,
he's like taxes are worse out there. He's like, damn it.
All right. So to you, what does it mean to be good at your job?
To be good at my job is like basically just pay attention.
Consistency.
Yeah, consistency. I was about to say with me, I set my own quota. So I tell myself, okay, by the end of the day, if I get these many parts with as little rejects as possible, then Kenneth's happy and I'm happy. And it's like, our customers are happy.
So in 16 years, Kenneth pours urethane, you pour urethane. I know every once in a while, Joseph can pour urethane. Mm-hmm. Guesstimate how many people have been through there on the urethane side. And the second part of that question is who lasts the longest?
Okay, so I'd say probably about 15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was about to say it's some guys only last a couple of days.
Yeah.
And I mean, usually it's the younger ones that don't last that long. We had this one guy working with us. He was, I get along with everybody. So far, I've only had like maybe 2 guys that I didn't get along with, and they didn't last very long anyway, so it didn't matter. But I mean, Chris G was there, Joseph's cousin.
Yeah.
He was family, so he was there for a little over a year. And then we had Sammy. You remember Sammy?
Yeah.
Sammy was there for a couple of years. I'd say he was probably the longest one on my side of the shop. We had Ramon on the other side of the shop. He was years. But,
Was Sammy good? Was he better than the other people?
Oh yeah, I mean, he had his own personal issues that we were constantly having to deal with. But as far as pouring urethane, he was good at it.
Yeah,
he took the time, and we've had a couple of others that have lasted about a year, like Garrett. He lasted about a year, but when things slowed down, he had to go find. He's like, I need money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was constantly. He's like, I can't have no 32 hour. When things slow down, we get to 32s. He couldn't handle that.
That's a great point too. Is so many of the kids, they say, I'm going to be a welder. Cool, be a welder. Or I'll tell them, be a machinist.
Yeah.
But they're both, at least in this state, heavily tied to oil and gas.
Yeah.
And there is going to be booms and there's going to be busts. And I think about Kenneth telling us like, hey, 40-hour weeks are coming.
Yeah.
Don't go buy a truck. Don't do anything stupid. We're like, and then 40 hours would come and like, hey, 32s might be coming.
Yeah, 32s.
So back to that, like the opportunity's there, the work is there, but that is part of that game. If you're related to that industry, it's feast or famine.
All I can say is have something set aside. Yeah. Because the pandemic hit right when I was having my house built.
Oh God, yeah.
So it's like, oh, this is great. It's like, or like it seems like it always happened when my wife quit working to go back to school. We were working.
Y'all went down
50. Yeah, we were working 50 some hours. The moment she decided to quit her job and go to school, we went down to 32s.
Yeah. And so the cure for that is to have savings.
Have savings, yeah.
Yeah.
And budgeting. It's like you got a budget. And it's like every time something changes, it's like, okay, guess what? No more going out to the fancy restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like no more buying the fancy purses and shoes and stuff like that, and no more buying guns for me.
Yeah, be realistic.
Yeah.
And I say that if it was just me, I'd be eating cans of beans, living in a tent. It is all Ellen with the budgeting and stuff like that. But we'll have like a talk about money or something, and she's like, well, we're saving a lot right now, and I know that you want this or that. But I'm like, yeah, but I also know that you're right.
Yeah.
Like it might not feel good when I can't go get whatever it is that the new thing that I want this week that never gives me real satisfaction anyways.
Yep.
But it's nice to know that, if stuff hits the fan, we're good.
Yeah, I was about to say that's the main thing is just having something to fall back on. Like if it wasn't like if I didn't have Nicole and Colin, like right now I probably wouldn't be working at Sinjo. I would be buying a sailboat and saying fuck all of this.
Yeah.
I'm going to the Caribbean or some shit. I'm gonna learn to sail or die trying.
Yeah, probably the second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or you'd starve to death on the boat or something like that.
No, man, I can fish. Catch crabs.
Man, you're good at that. Describe teamwork at your job, or the importance of teamwork.
I think, yeah, definitely with teamwork is like you have to have that in every job I've ever worked at. If you don't get along with a person, if there's no communication, if you don't work together, the whole system falls apart.
Yeah,
and it's like you can't get anything done. Like there has to be. With me, a lot of my job is solo work, but I still have to work with everybody else. I have to work with Joseph. I have to work with them. I mean, they make the shafts that I use to put the urethane around.
Yeah.
If I'm having a problem with this guy and he's the one supplying me with the metal that I need, and I'm over here like going back and forth, we're not going to get along. Shit's not going to get done. Everybody's miserable.
Yeah. Well, and that slowdown on his side is directly affecting you because you can't do your part unless they do their part.
Yeah.
If Joseph can't go get materials,
exactly,
then everybody's
we're all screwed. Like if we anything happens, like all of our shit comes from China.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay,
everything in the world comes from China.
Yeah, I was about to say. So without that wasn't even close, but that was good. It's like now we're back to throwing rocks again, like we're okay, I made a splash. But like without all of us working together, everything gets screwed.
Yeah. What would you tell your younger self to change? Let's rephrase that. What would you tell your younger self about work?
Oh, well, yeah. Back to being a porn star. No, I was about to say.
It's good to have dreams.
I was about to say, I would just invest more.
Yeah.
And like definitely invest more.
But it's funny because I would expect you to say that because you've always been good with money. But it's like, it's that age old, like, are you good with money because you think that way? Or do you think that way because you're good with money? Like, because there's people out there that they're young and they're going to go blow their money. And I'm like, don't do that. And they're like, what'd you do? And I was like, I blew my money.
Yeah.
And like, if like, well, then I'm going to do it too. And you're like,
well, see, like with me, when I blow my money, like say I'm going to buy something stupid.
Yeah.
One of the first things I ask myself, and this is just out of habit, is, can I resell this when I'm done having fun with it?
Man, I've never asked myself that ever once.
Like, I'll buy a paintball gun and be like, okay, this is a nice, fancy paintball gun because I'm into paintballing this week.
Yeah.
What happens next week when I'm when I'm done getting hit with paintballs? Like, how much can I sell all this shit back for?
Yeah. I've never asked myself that, but I wish I would have. I mean, because we went through like riding motorcycles, and then we had dirt bikes in Deerwood, and then we did kayaks, and now I'm buying like camera equipment, and I've even been asking myself like, what does 2 years from now look like? How much dust will be on all this crap?
Yeah, I was about to say. Like, I mean, that's one thing about as you buy something, you're like, okay, can I turn around and make a profit off of this?
Yeah.
There's some shit I will buy just so I can make a profit off of it.
Mr. B's the same way, where last week he bought the stainless exhaust off of a Porsche for $50. And he was like, I said, why did you buy that? And he goes, oh, well, it's cheaper and I need the bends to do the exhaust on my C10.
Yeah. And
I was like, oh, that's smart. Like, I would have never thought to do that. And he goes, yeah, but it turns out that this is like a factory racing exhaust and it's worth $1,500. And so he bought it and then immediately
turned around,
relisted it. And then the guy threw in something else and he relisted that. And so knowing him, his $50 it's not going to go the original way and save him like $250 on exhaust materials. Instead, it's going to turn into $1,500 profit. He'll spend $300, buy the stuff he needs, and still have $1,200 profit. On top of that.
Exactly.
And for me, it just ends up being like, oh, I only lost $200 this time. Like,
I was like, I didn't
like, make money.
I was about to say, there's some stuff I'll buy just because I'm like, this is going to be worth some money. You know, like I bought some first edition Star Wars silver coins. You know. Yeah.
Oh, and you're I know you're into silver.
Oh yeah, I invest in silver, invest in gold. You know, I always buy like the coins and stuff like that, and usually try and find them at a cheaper price.
Yeah.
And then see what gold and silver is going for. Like when silver hit like $43, $42 or $43 an ounce.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think it was like $5,000, $6,000 just off of the silver that I had laying around.
I remember you telling me about the guy that
sold his business. Yeah.
Sold everything. His wife was like, dude, are you insane?
Yeah, and then when he turned around, he's like, well, we can retire now. I made over $1 million.
Yeah. Man. That's the dream, right?
Yeah.
I mean, school. So like I know you went to school, and I've seen this a lot in the past 2 years for sure. There's a YouTube channel where they're like, oh, like it's called something about like being transparent with how much you make. And she's like, did you go to school? And they're like, yes. And they're like, oh, do you regret it? And some people are like, no, and then some people are like, yes. So you went to school. Do you use that directly for your job?
My job, not necessarily. I mean, I went to college based off of like the old job that I did have, where they were like, hey, if you go to college, we'll help pay for it, and we'll move you inside the building with a promotion.
Yeah.
There's that, that promise of the promotion.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, no, I definitely. Well, when they stopped doing that, I was like, well, I started this shit. I'm going to finish it.
Finish it. Yeah.
And
so my next question would be like, so you're not using it directly for your job. Was it a waste, or do you regret it?
No, actually, I enjoyed this, like just the experience of it. I got to socialize with other people. I got to, learn some shit that I forgot.
Broaden your horizons.
Yeah, I was about to say, and there was, some things I forgot. You don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then some of it, is a good experience also for like how, like dealing with some of the professors. It'd be like, some of those professors are more cutthroat. They're like, oh, we're preparing you for real life. Be like, no, I've been in the real world.
Yeah.
I own a house. I own a car. I've worked at places. I was like, you ain't preparing me for shit. You're just fucking me over.
Yeah.
And it's like, but no, some of it, I'd say for the most part, I just went to community college. So I didn't, I got my associates of science.
Yeah.
The whole deal with that, though, when I decided to pursue that was, I'm in the oil field. Something happens with the job I'm at now.
Yeah.
Maybe I could go into geology, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's always good to have a backup.
And I've seen that like among some of the people we know that were like, college is dumb. And I'm like, oh, what's your kid doing? And they're like, going to college. And I'm like, why?
You paying for that?
Yeah. And so again, it's not a judgment. It's just, it's interesting. I don't think that you got into debt going to school.
No, I paid for every class. Like sometimes I could only take 2 classes a semester. Yeah. It did take me, I will say, it did take me
same here.
Longer than most people would have finished college. And it's not because I was failing or stupid.
Yeah, no. It's just
I was like, that's what
reality got in the way.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm working 50-something hours a week.
Yeah.
But I found it, with me, it was, the school that I was going to, community college, it wasn't like a Ivy League, or it wasn't like, like A&M or someplace like that. I mean, my tuition was a lot cheaper than.
Yeah, for sure.
So I didn't have to get any student loans. I never had to maybe a few times put on credit card or something like that, a class or some books. Or
paid off within the year.
Yeah, I was about to say, but I never went into debt going to school.
And then I think you were the same with me, where you were decently older when you went. Do you think that made a difference?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I think if I would have went straight from high school to college, I probably would have spent all my time partying, drinking, and, we kind of got that out before I went to college.
I've heard some people say that like it should be mandatory that you work a year before you go to college.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Oh yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, some people like your daughter, she's like, she can just get that right in school right out the way.
And she was working the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, so for me, I was like, I didn't have to, me paying for my own. It also helped out because, some people would be like, oh, my parents are paying. Like we had this one kid in my class, and the teacher's like, do you want to flunk my class? And he goes, what do I care? It's not my money. My parents are paying for this.
Yeah.
And I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
I was like, with me, I had more like, hey, I really need to do this because I paid for this.
Yeah,
shit.
You had skin in the game.
Yeah.
For sure. Let's see. I think what's something that people don't know about your job, and they should?
Let's see. Without it, you wouldn't be able to do the shit that you normally do.
Yeah.
As like, I mean, I do play a small part, but I mean, everything is part of the bigger machine.
Yeah.
That, it's like, like I know how people are talking about everything. Like the big issue right now is everybody's talking about electric cars.
I was just about to say that.
And it's like, okay, it's like, I'll see the videos. It'd be like, hey, here I am charging my electric car with the generator.
Ricky was just literally telling me about that. Yeah. To me, that's like a microcosm of the bigger thing too, is like you're saying like, oh, well, my job is very important because it's one small tooth and a small cog of the machine that is oil and gas.
Yeah.
But on the same hand too, it seems like that's all of us working.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like without the shit that we do, they can't do what they need to do because they don't have the parts. You can't test the parts. You can't do anything. And it's like we have a lot of people that be like, I need this in a rush. And it's like, you don't understand. Like our whole business shuts down if we don't have these parts that you make for us. Yeah. And it's like, and if that shuts down, then the whole thing shuts down. These people, we're not going to pay these people to sit around.
It's like a cascade effect or a domino effect.
Yeah. And just the same thing, like when we can't get material. Yeah. It's like, okay.
Yeah. What was that like during COVID? I mean, was it harder to get
it was
raw products?
Oh yeah. It was like, sometimes we'd be like, somebody would order something, be like, we will get those as soon as we get the material.
It's been, for me, just doing work on the side, somebody's like, oh, can you make this for me? And now I'm like, yes, but before I even bother to do the plans, consider IKEA. Yeah. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because everything's so expensive. I mean, it's probably not worth it for me to spend 3 hours drawing up a set of plans to give you a quote that I'm pretty sure you're going to be like, what?
Yeah. I wasn't expecting to pay this much and be like, you don't understand. Like the cost of material has more than tripled. Yeah. It's like on everything that we get. Yeah. Like, I mean, all of our material, the metal, the mocha, everything has tripled in price. And then people are like, well, you used to sell these to us for, this amount of money. Yeah. And it's like, why can't you do that now? It's be like, because I would actually lose so much more money. Yeah. It's like, we're not, or just like the restaurants when they tell people, be like, we didn't raise our prices so we could be rich. Yeah. It's like, we literally can't get a hold of anything.
Yeah. 20 years ago, McDonald's had cheeseburgers for 29 cents, 29-cent hamburger Mondays.
And they were this big. And it's like, now they're like this big.
And you're like, my dad's always like, dude, gas was a nickel. And I'm like, yeah, it was like 40 years ago.
You know how many pieces of candy I used to eat for 5 cents?
Like, I get it, but that's just part of it. What is this job or, being in the oil field industry, what do you feel like it's taught you? I mean, obviously, you're making those connections with being a part of it. Is there anything else?
Well, I don't know. Like with the oil and gas is like, the way I see it is like, I tell people, it's like, even with everything that's going on and everybody's trying to switch electric, everything's going, they still need
lubricants, oil, rubber, plastic.
It's like, go look in those, the big giant wind turbines. Yeah. What are they filled with?
Yeah. Oil. Yeah. Well, and that's, some people are like, oh, it's going to destroy. And I'm like, one, I obviously know that I don't have any control in where it's going anyways, but two, it seems like part of that panic may be overrated because people aren't really thinking about how much we need petroleum for non-direct gasoline.
Yeah, it's not just for the oil you put in your car. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, I get that. And I understand, I mean, I definitely see, the need for other means of, like energy and all that other stuff. I mean, I get it, and I'm not saying like, oh, these people are all idiots. If you believe in wind power or solar power, well, you're an idiot. Only oil can do it. Yeah. I'm not saying that, but right now we can't just flip a switch and all of a sudden, okay, we're all on electric now. We're all on wind power now. It's like, no. It's like there still has to be that need for.
All right. Under any circumstance, would you buy a Tesla?
Like me personally buy it?
Yeah.
No. Just because I have, well, for one, I just don't have a reason to have one because of how much I drive. Yeah. I mean, I drive a long distance every day. Yeah. And it's like, and plus I have to plug it in at my house. Yeah. Which is like, okay, like my energy bill is just going to skyrocket. Yeah. And it's like, when I can just pay for gas. And plus, how much are Teslas?
Dude, I can't afford a regular car now anyway. So
yeah, I was about to say, it's like people are like, okay, like gas prices have, they soared for a while. Yeah. They're like, I'm going to go buy me a $50,000 Tesla. Yeah. And it's like, okay, so now you have a payment that.
Well, and I've always wondered that is it doesn't seem like anybody has really good data. I'm sure somebody's out there, and if you see this video, feel free to comment. But what is the trade-off? Like, what is the cost of the Tesla versus something comparable in gas? Then added into the factor of how much it costs. You know, people have told me that it costs $150 to charge the Tesla one time, which just I'm like, I don't know. Like, it seems high.
And plus, like I saw one place where they had, it was probably on Facebook or some shit like that, which, you know, you can't believe everything you see. But, you know, when enough people are like, hey, no, this is a real thing. Look, it's like this place has 2 charging stations. Each card just takes, to get the minimum amount that they need or whatever, 45 minutes. Yeah. So you had this line of cars that were waiting, and people were like, okay, my car died while waiting to get to the charge station because there's only 2 charge stations. So I'm like, I mean, it's like sitting at the gas pump for like 45 minutes waiting for somebody to move out the way.
You know, before we were born, we did that as a country during the whole OPEC thing in the 70s, but that wasn't like the norm.
Yeah.
But we've been there. Not that, I mean, that's, I guess, neither here nor there. But then it's like, you know, people are like, oh, it costs so much to charge it. And I'm like, okay, so I wish somebody could tell me that owns a Tesla, like what it really costs. Yeah. But also, what is it? I mean, to fill my truck up, it's $100 and something bucks.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was spending $135, I think, at one point to fill up my truck. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I mean, of course it was ridiculous. And I'm like, damn, you know. Yeah. But then again, that's where all the budgeting comes into play. Yeah. It's like, okay, now that I'm spending $135 on gas, maybe not go into the store and buy a couple of drinks and chips and beef jerky.
Yeah, we're going to have pork chops, not steak.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, if you're like me and you're cheap as shit, like you go to the store after one of the games and they got the fillets for like $3.99. Yeah. I'm like, all right. You
know. Man, I go to Kroger's, and for a while they weren't having it, but they'll have like a 3-pack of like decently thick T-bones. It's like $50, but with the Kroger's card, it's like 21. So it ends up, you know, it works out to about like $5 a steak. Yeah. So people are like, dude, you're eating steak all the time. And I'm like,
if you know how to shop,
I'm eating it right now. But if I can't find that deal, then I'm just
gonna. Yeah, I was about to say, if I look in there and they're like, hey, like the one time we went and we were like, damn, they had these beautiful like fillets, you know, like that thick. Yeah. It's like $21. So I was like, never mind, I'm not getting a $21 steak right now. It's like, so, you know, we go over there and we go get some hot dogs and chili. Yeah. And then other times, like I said, it was after game day. You know, it was the next day after a game. They put all the bacon wrap fillets out. Yeah. $3.99, and I was like, I'll throw a couple in the freezer.
Yeah. Yeah. So just being smart.
Yeah. It's smart like, okay, so like I said, you know, when we were paying that much money for gas, like, and even Nicole, she'd stay out in Cyprus at her parents' old house.
Yeah, I remember you were telling me.
Yeah, so she'd stay the night out there, so she wouldn't have to drive all the way back out.
Yeah. Is she still working in Cyprus?
She just got a new job.
Okay, and
she starts at this month.
In College Station?
College Station,
That's awesome. Congratulations.
10 minutes away from our house.
Nice. I'm sure she's looking forward to that too.
She's nervous, you know. Yeah. Any type of change.
Yeah, it's a change.
Nerve-wracking for her, but no, she's excited. You know, it's a new job. You know, it's the same thing she's doing, nursing. You know. But now she, you know, I mean, the only reason she stayed as long as she did is because her dad got cancer. So we kind of had to switch up our whole life.
Yeah. I mean, it obviously that sucked, but it seems like that's a good skill set to like try to teach your kids of that being adaptable.
Yeah. And it is, it's hard. Like me and my mom or my mom and I and Nicole, we were all sitting there one day and we're driving in the car and we were talking. Mom said, well, you know, Seth and I are used to our life changing like that, you know, so we adapt very well to anything new. It's like, to me, you know, some people would be like, oh crap, I have to start a new job, or I move. Like moving to me was no big deal. I was like, hey, cool, we're moving again. Yeah. And it's like Nicole, she was like, oh my God, what's going to happen to our whole life? And I'm like, huh? Yeah. Or like when we were going to have a kid with me, it was like, cool, we're having a kid. And Nicole's like, oh my God, we got to do that. And I'd be like, huh? I was like, no, we're having a kid. It's cool.
Yeah, we're just, whatever we need to do, we're going to do.
Yeah, we're going to do it. It's like, she's like, our whole life is going to change. I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, your whole life changes probably more often than our lives are
I told her, I said, look how different our life was before we got married. And then we got married. Now we're like forced into this situation where like you can't just buy shit because you want it. Yeah. You have to go over everything.
Yeah, it's the older I get, the more I'm getting into just trying to be like with the experience of it all. Like it doesn't really matter what happens. It's just how you're kind of rolling with it.
Yep. I was about to say is like I told Nicole, I was like, especially with everything that's going on and us getting older, you know, you hear about, you know, classmates you went to school with.
So, dude, literally, I don't want to say the name, but Tone, you saw
I saw the post,
Somebody died that was 2 years older than us.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I'll see it all the time. I'll get on there, you know, get on Facebook and somebody will write me and be like, hey, you won't believe who passed away. It's like, and I was talking to Joseph, I said, man, we've already had like 15 people, 16 people from our class, you know, that have passed away.
Yeah. Isn't it is,
and some of it's like, you know, like heart condition or a heart attack.
Yeah.
It's like, we're too damn young to be having heart attacks. Obviously not.
How much of that do we see that? And then tomorrow we're going to be at work and we're going to be stressed out and we're going to be like, this is what matters right now. And you know, so that's like the flip side of this whole thing is, I super believe in the importance of work. I think we have something in us, you know, like this could be God or religion or whatever, but we're meant to do something. You know, we're part of a culture and we're part of a country and we need to keep that country going. And I do believe in keeping the economy going. And I think that every single job has some kind of importance. And also on the flip side that absolutely nothing matters. Yeah. We're going to be dead. And no matter what, we're going to be dead in 50 years and nobody's going to remember us.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I think about it too, you know, you're like, okay, what if I do die? Like say next week, I die next week. It'd be like, shit. I'd be like, all this stuff that I was so important to, you know, make all this money, buy this fancy house, have the nice truck, spend all that money on a damn zero-turn mower.
Yeah.
And then it's like, for what?
For what?
Yeah. But then again, if I don't, and I make it into my 80s and I'm like, hey, I'm retired with, you know, I
can't afford to eat
$2 million. No, I'm saying, yeah. Like if I retired, I'm like, hey, I was smart. I saved money. I did this. I have a retirement plan. You know, I set money aside. Now I'm retired, and you know, I get to see my grandkids. Yeah. You know, because you never know. You honestly never know because you're like, oh man, I could die tomorrow. Well, if you have that mentality, then you're not gonna want to put anything aside. You're not gonna be like, fuck it, I'm gonna live for today. That was my dad's philosophy. Yeah. Fuck if I don't have any money, you know, I'm gonna live for today. Yeah. You know, and I mean,
to be fair, like your dad would almost be the exception to the rule because they were like, he's not going to live past 2. Yeah. And they're like, well, he lived past 2, but he's not going to live past 6. Yeah. He's not going to make it to 15.
He's not going to make it in the fire department. That type of work will kill him.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like they just kept saying it over and over and he kept going. But I recognize fully what you're saying. Yeah. So it's like, how do you know, is there a formula to find that balance between spending time out here where we haven't been in probably 15 years versus making sure you got enough money to pay the light bill and put some into retirement and what's the golden ratio?
It's like, honestly, and this is sad, and this is kind of like what we touched on earlier, is like the time. It's like I literally like when you told me, you know, it's like, hey, we're going to do this, the first thing I thought of, I was like, oh shit, do I have time? Yeah. Do I have time to meet with one of my oldest friends? Yeah. That just hang out or do whatever? And I was like, fuck it, dude, like make time. Like
and it's crazy because again, one of like the facets of this whole thing is for everybody that doesn't know you, Jake being your older brother, Jake had said in the past where he was like, dude, is it possible to like hang out with you and not work? And I'm like, I don't know. So now I've got this thing going on where like, oh, you want to hang out?
You want to hang out?
Can we attach work to it? Like, cool, we're done.
It's like, if I can put your ass, well, I have, like, every time I move, I'm like, let me call Joel. It's like, okay. It's like, that's kind of how our friendship is. It's like, hey, we're going to hang out, but hey, we're also going to fucking work. Because
it is.
You and I don't know how to turn it off sometimes.
Yeah. And that's 100%.
Yeah. It's like, okay, we're going to do this, but you know, we're going to throw in some work. And then after that, you know, we might have some time to hang out.
Yeah.
It's like just finding the time. Like I said, the time is one of the most worst parts of getting older. Is like, because I constantly think about time now. I'm like, fuck, dude, I'm getting too old.
I've talked with my dad a lot about this, but when I've turned 40, I said, man, you know, I felt like the day I turned 30, life got normal.
Yeah. I got married.
You know, look, I think there's, how do I say this? I think probably everybody in the world, their 20s were way worse than mine. But for whatever that's worth, like my 20s were hard for me. Yeah. And there was, especially my early 20s, you know, when Elise was born, I mean, I was like, dude, I'm not going to make it. Like, yeah. And my old boss, Roy, would be like, oh, when I'm 30, I'm checking out. And I was like, what does that mean? He was like, I'm fucking checking out, dude, at 30. And I was like, how could you have that attitude? You know, and then by the time I was like 23, I was like, oh, I fucking get it, man. Like, it's hard. So I turned 30 and I'm like, oh, like everything kind of fell into place. And I was like, I'm getting the hang of this. I understand it. And then my 30s were like, bam. Right. And I turned 40. So I'm talking to my dad and I was like, man, it just seems like, you know, 20s kind of drug on, and then 30s, I start to figure it out.
And then by the time you get it figured out, you're in your fucking 40s.
I'm in my 40s, and now it's this whole other set of challenges. And he's like, oh man, it gets nothing but worse. Yeah. And I was like, dude.
Well, see, like, okay, with me, I'm going to say in my 20s, you remember me, I was a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
I was worried about everything.
Yeah.
Everything fucking caused me problems, caused me ulcers.
Yeah.
I was stressed out all the time. And I don't remember when exactly it was where I finally was like, fuck worrying about everything. Yeah. I was like, I understand people now that have the fuck it attitude, because I was like, my life got so much easier when I was like, you know what? Dad's philosophy, except without the alcohol.
Yeah.
Fuck it. I'm just going to let it roll. You know, it's like, I'm going to do my best. I want to stop worrying. And I mean, it took me I had to force myself to say, I'm not going to give a shit about this.
I'm getting to that point, like as of this summer, where anybody that's hung around with me for the past 2 months is probably tired of me, like talking about like Buddha stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not Buddhist, but I've just been into the teachings.
Saying, hey, this kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And one of the things they talk about is like, well, how do I just completely not care? And they're like, it's not caring. Like, it's not nihilism.
Yeah.
But one of the things they said was like, okay, you're born into roles. Like, you're born into the role of being a son or being a father, or, you know, doing this kind of job or whatever. Yeah. And they're like, you do it the best you can.
Yeah.
But you also realize that this is completely impermanent and that nothing matters.
Yeah.
Like, and it's back to that balance of like, so I'm trying to hold those up where at school, and not that you know, there's probably a couple kids right now that would say I'm doing a horrible job. Not trying to get upset when they don't do things that I want them to do. Or if I'm going to be upset, I'm not going to show it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, this isn't personal. Like,
yeah,
they're not waking up being like, you know what would make my day?
Yeah.
Is to like not do this thing that he told me to.
I was about to say, yeah, there has to be that balance, because like I say, you know, I say fuck it all, you know, stuff like that. But I mean, I still have shit that drives me nuts. You know, it's like my son will do something and I'm like, don't get angry.
Yeah.
Don't get angry, because I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, but I'll have to reach that point where like he's doing something that is like, I'll be like, dude, I've told you 100 times, stop fucking doing this. Are you stupid? Stop doing this. And then finally I just tell myself, like, my wife will be like, are you going to stop me? And I'll look at her. I'll say, no, I'm done. If he gets hurt, if he does, I was like, I don't care. I was like, because if I keep worrying about it, I'm going to get angry, and then I'm going to lose my temper, and then I'm going to end up spanking him.
Yeah. And is that, you know, I've heard more and more lately where people are like, oh, you can't do that, and that's horrible, and da-da-da. And I'm like, you know, am I just that old? Or is there truth to like the things we were taught of, I just feel like with a kid, right, you could be like, hey man, don't do that, and here's why, and da-da-da-da. But sometimes they got to do it, and you got to go,
yeah.
Now do you get it?
Yeah.
Now,
like he likes to put on his Spider-Man outfit and jump from one couch to the other.
Yeah.
And like after a while, you know, I just finally said, you know what, you're gonna fall down. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna. And then of course he bangs his head and comes crying. And I'd be like, no, I told you, bro.
Yeah.
Like you had to learn.
Yeah.
And it's like, and whether you do learn, or 10 minutes later you're gonna be jumping from couch to couch again.
And I heard the thing about like, a stupid man never learns. A smart man learns from his mistakes, and a wise man learns from the mistakes of others.
Yeah.
And so I tell my students, I'm like, which one are you? And they'll be like, which one are you? And I'm like, which one do you think I am? And they're like, honestly? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you're probably the smart guy. And I'm like, I am. I have to learn. I'm not smart enough to learn from other people's mistakes. Like, I'm learning that about myself right now. But then I'm like, which one do you want to be?
Yeah.
I'm like, you could do it my way.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't like your way. I was like, I want to watch you fuck up.
Yes.
And I'm going to learn, hey, don't be like Joel.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm okay with that.
No, I was about to say, like, just like with all my friends back in high school, I'd be like, yeah, y'all guys are fucking up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go that. Yeah. Like, Tony's like, hey, we got cocaine and beer. You want to go hurting out? I'm like, no.
No, I'm good.
I'm good,
tell me how it was.
Tell me all about it.
It's interesting. I mean, with raising your own kid or being partially responsible for other people's kids, the attitude seems to be changing, and it keeps going, like, I guess to the left. But you're like, can it go? And I think the answer is obviously yes. But it's like, can it go too far to the left? And I'm like, yes, 100%. I was
about to say, yeah.
There are repercussions. Like, you just can't argue. Like, physically, if we jump off of this, how are we not going to get hurt?
Oh yeah, I was about to say, like, I remember we were dumb as kids, but I remember all the dumb shit that we did, and sometimes I'll look at the kids today and I'll be like, you're fucking idiots. Yeah. I'd be like, I mean, we did stupid shit, but no, you. Yeah. It's like, I don't recall ever being, like 12 years old, stealing a car and pointing a gun at cops and then be like, why did the cops shoot me?
Yeah. Or, and this is probably, I'm sure there's like older adults out there who would be like, no, you're remembering reality wrong. I remember, and you were just as stupid.
Yeah.
But I think back to we would do dumb things, and then we would get caught, and then you're like, we got caught. Like, we lost this round.
Yeah,
that's okay.
I was about to say, there was, when we got caught doing dumb shit, for me, it was, damn, well, now we have to answer to Dad.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, fuck, I'm screwed.
But that's another thing I see with people working is like the lack of personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And one of my kids said it the other day of like, how did he describe it? People only ever care about what's right and wrong when they get caught.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, like I can relate to that because I know I've done dumb things and bad things and I didn't care as long as I didn't get caught.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, can we at least meet in the middle where like when you do get caught,
do you own up?
Just own up.
Yeah.
Like, own up.
Yeah. Be like, okay, yes, I did this.
I messed up.
Yeah, there'll be some like, like Adam that'll fight it to the end and be like,
yes.
No, you don't understand.
Yeah.
I didn't do what you saw me do.
Yeah.
That was totally different.
I don't care what the video shows.
Yeah, the video. It's like, we watch those Datelines with Nicole, and the cops are talking to the guy and it's like, okay, we got you on camera.
Yeah. Leaving
the murder scene with a gun. No, that's not me. And they're like, okay, well, here you are getting in your car and here you are, and they'll be like, no, that's not me. It's not me, bro. It's like, okay. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's like some people would just fight it to the end. They'd be like, okay, we've totally got you now. And it's like, no, it wasn't me. Are those people psychopathic or are they just smart? I mean, do you get to a point where you do things you shouldn't be, where you're like, I'm going to commit to this 100%. Yeah.
Like, do you almost have to respect somebody that will look you in the eye and be like, no, because I had a kid that stole and we had it on camera and he straight looked me in the eye and he goes, I didn't take that. And I said, dude. And he goes, I don't know what you think you're seeing, but I didn't take that. And I went, like in my head, I was like, oh, he's literally like, he's a psychopath.
Yeah, I was about to say that he's trying desperately hard to Jedi mind fuck me or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's like, you didn't see what you think you saw.
They're not the droids you're looking for.
Actually, people like that really fucking annoy me. Because in my opinion, it's like Chris G. He's like, I'm smarter than you. And the fact that I can lie to you and get away with it makes me even smarter.
Yeah.
And to me, I was like, no, you're not. You're not fucking smarter than me. You're a dumbass. I've got you dead to rights. And here you are saying oh man, I never said that.
But it never mattered because he would never admit to it.
Yeah, even if I'd be like, dude, pull out a recorder and be like, here you are saying that, you were not doing stunts on your motorcycle, that you got hit by a car. And I'd be like, when you got your own fucking brother right here, even telling us that, yeah, you broke your ankle because you were doing stunts on a motorcycle and you were too embarrassed to tell people.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's not what happened, man. I got hit by a car.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, where's the police report? There wasn't a police report. But earlier in the story, you said the police showed up.
Yeah.
They didn't file a report.
Yeah, they were real tired that day. A whole bunch of people got hit by cars that day.
There was so much going on that day. And I'd be like, dude, just like Kenneth said that one day. He's like, you have no credibility because we caught you in so many lies. But like I said, like that type of shit just, like with me, if I get busted in a lie, I'm like, which doesn't happen very often, but because I try not to lie as much as possible because
or you try to be a really good liar.
Yeah, I was like lighter.
Liar.
But no, I just suck at lying, so I found I'm better off just telling the truth and owning up to it. But no, it's like if I get busted in a lie, it's like, okay, you got me.
Yeah.
I fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you caught me. And be like, or something stupid that I've done, I'd be like, okay, yeah, you got me. I did do that. But like some people, like like them, or like Adam, they just like keep going with it. And you're like, I love you, bro, but you have got to stop lying.
Yeah, you're living the lie.
Yeah,
and I think most people probably, like maybe not from a cop perspective, but from somebody or somebody you're dealing with. Most people respect the fact where you're like, yeah, I messed up.
Yeah, I'll take that. I will take that any day.
Yeah,
and be like, hey, thank you for apologizing, or at least admitting.
Yeah,
that you try to lie about it. I respect that more than somebody that like tries to convince me and be like, hey, even though you have total proof that I did this, I will never own up to it.
The cop that arrested the kid that hit me, he was talking to me and he goes, he said, I spent about 45 minutes talking with him. And he was like, why'd you do it? And the kid was like, man, it was in the moment. He's like, I feel bad. I'd like to apologize. And I was like, oh, like that? Like, I was like, knowing that, right? Where you're like, look, man, sorry. I had a case of the dumb.
It's like, tell me you didn't ever want to hit one of your teachers just for
yeah. And I'm like, all right. And so I was trying to explain that to my kids of like, there comes a point in your life where you're just like, okay, like I'm not going to dwell on this no matter what his intentions were. I'm not going to spend the rest of my time dwelling on it. But also it really makes it easier to let it go when somebody will just be like, I messed up.
Yeah.
I had a momentary lapse of judgment. This isn't
who
I normally am or who I want to be.
I've had plenty of time where I've gotten into fights and afterwards, we're both like, hey man, heat of the moment. Yeah. We fucked up. Cool. And then of course you got those people who are like, man, if I see that fool again, I'm going to beat his ass. And I'll be like, it never ends.
Yeah, exactly. It never ends.
I was about to say, Casey will find somebody that like he got in a fight with 20 years ago and be like, I'm
in sixth grade. Yeah.
Dude, that motherfucker stole my chair that time in class.
And it's like, damn, you're still carrying that with you. That's a lot of extra weight to be carrying around. Yeah, the older I get, the more I'm like...
Yeah, I'll see people I went to high school with that I got in a fight with. I'd be like, hey, I remember you. We got into a fight.
Yeah.
It's like, Casey will say bye to somebody and be like, yo, we're going to finish this?
Yeah, still carrying it.
20 years later.
All right, man, anything else anybody you want to plug? Is there a website we can find your other job on?
I was about to say, when you said, is there anybody you want to plug? I was like,
anything.
Damn, I mean, how much tape do you have? Oh, wait, nobody uses tape anymore. I said old people shit.
That is, yeah.
Just like I'm going to have to call somebody to help me get off these rocks.
Yeah, the arthritis. But, anything else you want to throw in before we wrap this up?
No, just, there's that. That one thing.
There you go. All right. Well, I think that's a perfect ending.
Yeah, I mean, that sums it up.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem.
All right, that was our special guest, Seth Cook, urethane technician. Hope you enjoyed this podcast today, guys. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for being patient with me as I learn Adobe Premiere on my own. And if you want to see anything, if you know anybody that might be interested in being on, or you have any comments, or maybe some constructive criticism, let me know. And I really appreciate you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And go out there, do something constructive with your life. Make the world a better place. All right, thanks, guys.